any more headway on Craven Cottage show in the UK.
So I have to ask you if there's any movement on your UK show.
AEW is going to make our debut in London, England, Sunday, August 27th, for the first ever AEW All In.
Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Chase and today we are talking about AEW Dynamite from April 5th, and what a show it was. What a personally catered to Steph Chase show it was. But before we get into the action and my reaction to the action, let me remind you to please subscribe to this channel. Yes, if you're watching, please hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you will always know when I drop a new video. I did a live stream today before this video was published, and it's now up there for you to catch up on if you haven't already seen it. It's where I talked about everything except AEW Dynamite. I did go into some of the big news from Dynamite, but I also talked more about WWE, what happened at WrestleMania to Cody, and the WWE UFC merger. And of course, go follow me on Twitter at Stephanie M. Chase, as well as on Instagram at Stephanie M. Chase. TikTok's the same, and in the description box below, you can check out links to some other ways to support me, like my OnlyFans or my Substack or my Patreon. But let's get down to business. I have to say, this was the hardest Dynamite for me to concentrate on in the history of AEW Dynamite. From the hours of 10:30 p.m. UK time to 2:30 a.m., there were 3 AEW announcements, news, whatever you want to call it, that felt like they were personally catered to me, and my mind was blown by each one. So concentrating on this was so hard, like so hard. And honestly, when I woke up this morning, this is Thursday daytime that I'm recording this, when I woke up this morning, I felt like Jasmine in Aladdin. It was a whole new world with this stuff that had gone down on Wednesday night. I was now in a whole new world. That's how I felt. So let's get into the show. It was from Long Island, New York. Now, first match build was Ricky Starks versus Juice Robinson. And what I need to do is tell you exactly how my viewing of this match went down. So let me set the scene. I was in Benno's house watching this. We were watching on the TBS feed. Yes, don't tell anyone. And it came on that they were starting with Juice versus Ricky. Now, if you've been watching my reviews, you know that I've not been a fan of this feud, nor do I highly rate Juice Robinson. So Benno said something to me like, are they trying to turn people off immediately? Like a joke like that. I pulled up Twitter and I saw a tweet from John Pollock that said, Jay White comes out and attacks Ricky Starks. And I turned to Benno in like an absolute panic and was like, are we behind? Is our feed behind? Are we behind? And he was like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, tell me if we're behind. He's like, we might be a bit behind. And then Jay White came out, and I honestly felt like I was having a heart attack. I could not believe it. I was completely shook. So what happened was Juice Robinson was already in the ring. Ricky Starks made his entrance. When he got to the ring, Jay White ran in, but they didn't shoot him from when he started running in. They shot it kind of like halfway, and then him and Juice just started beating up Ricky Starks. Starks did get some offense on Jay, and then White ended up hitting the Blade Runner on Starks, and they both stood over Ricky. The match was a no contest. Jay was using his New Japan music, and he was also referred to as Switchblade Jay White. So I am an OG Switchblader. As I said on Twitter, he has been my favorite wrestler since Wrestle Kingdom 12, and my favorite current wrestler, young wrestler, shall we say. I didn't like this. I didn't like this, and I need to fully explain why. I had said before that I actually wanted Jay to sign with WWE, and a lot of this was based on what happened around the Forbidden Door time when Tony debuted having Jay in a backstage segment, which I thought was so bad. I think Jay is like the greatest young talent there is, and I couldn't believe that he was being debuted in such a nothing way, like backstage. It's like, come on. So I just wanted him to go. I wanted him to go to WWE because I felt that AEW is like so stacked and people get lost in the shuffle. And when I added that on to the how he was debuted at the Forbidden Door time, I just felt like Tony maybe doesn't know what he's got with this guy, because I see this guy as like straight in, in the main event scene. Things have changed in WWE. So Jay probably did make a better decision just because it's so hard to predict what Vince McMahon would do with him. I do actually have faith that Triple H would have treated him well, but with Vince, like, you never know. But this, like, let's call it a re-debut of Jay, because he had been seen around Forbidden Door time. I just didn't like it. Firstly, aligning him with Juice, I just think Juice is a proper like mid-carder for life, charisma vacuum type guy. So that association for me is just bad. He's obviously still leaning on the New Japan like Bullet Club stuff. I don't mind him still calling himself Switchblade, but I would have liked to have seen like something freshened up there. They shot it really bad. I do think that wasn't intentional. They were meant to shoot him fully from when he was running down, and it was just more, you know what AEW camera work can be like. They love to miss things, and I think that they missed that. And it just wasn't as grand a debut as I wanted it to be. Like, it really wasn't. I wasn't happy. And I know like a lot of people were, and that's cool. But I just felt like, for me, someone who has been wanting Jay when the time was right, so not for like not from the first time I saw him, but the past, I would say like 2 years, has been wanting him to move on from New Japan, sign with a US based company. I think it would be best for him personally as well. This was just not how I would have debuted him. Really, it just wasn't. Ricky Starks, his first opponent, I would have gone higher than that. I would have picked a Jericho or an Adam Cole, someone like that. Having him coming out to confront Adam Cole at some point would have been cool. I think he could have done something cool with Jericho. That's a legend that has done New Japan that he never worked with in New Japan. It was always a bit of a dream match for me to see them together. And obviously all these, matches can happen during the line, but I just think for the debut, I would have wanted something really impactful. And Ricky Stark's been stuck in this awful Juice Robinson thing for a couple of weeks now. And I mean, what a troll on me, who was complaining about this, to find out that it was all to lead to Jay White. Like, wow. But I'm really happy for Jay that he's landed, in AEW. I'm so excited to see what the future holds for him. Of those of you that have been following me a long time, of course, you know that my mom is the biggest Jay White fan. Her take on this, I texted her this morning to tell her that Jay had signed with AEW. She said, "Oh, really? Hope he made the right decision. Will remain to be seen." I feel that way kind of too, but I wish Jay all the best. And I think very quickly Tony will find out what he has with Jay very quickly, because Jay is an incredible talent. So I could not recover from this though, like the absolute shock of it. I couldn't recover at all. And I'm there like heart palpitations, everything going. And then we cut to Chris Jericho talking about why he came out last week at the end of Dynamite. He said that Cole like punked out Daniel Garcia. He got the win, and then he got the girl, and then he had to put a stop to the disrespect. I thought that was like an odd way of explaining it, because I think Garcia kind of ended up looking worse, basically having his dad have to like carry him, to the back. And then Keith Lee appeared and said that Jericho disrespects everyone in AEW and he'll teach him a lesson next week in Milwaukee. So I'm here like after this Jay White craziness going, what am I watching? This is like going on in the background while me and Benno are just talking about the Jay White thing. And I was just like, this is so random. So anyway, Chris Jericho versus Keith Lee next week. Absolutely random match. We'll see what happens. Anyway, odd. Then we had the House of Black defeating the Best Friends for the Trios title. We had the return of Sue, who came in the minivan to drive the Best Friends. That was super cute. I love people who are really good friends with their mom, just like me. I wonder what Sue's take on Jay White being in AEW was. But anyway, at one point we saw Anna Jay watching backstage, keeping an eye on Julia Hart, and the commentator said that Anna Jay had some words for Julia Hart in Rampage.
Because I've got a fat ass and a bad attitude.
That is definitely something I would never reference again. So Matthews ended up winning with the curb stomp. This is a pretty good match. I think the House of Black are doing a really good job with the trios titles, and it was just a nice feel good moment to see Sue, even though her son's team lost. Then we had a video package on Christian Cage, who we have not seen since he was buried alive at Revolution. He was in a hall with a red light, and then we saw Luchasaurus. They didn't say anything. This was strange. I thought it'd be a bit longer before we saw Christian, since he was buried, and be interesting to see what they do with them with Luchasaurus back, because it looks like Jack Perry has moved on, but have they? My biggest fear in life right now, in the world, is that AEW will hire Edge if Edge decides to leave WWE. That is my biggest fear. That's what keeps me awake at night. That's what I have nightmares of. It's scary. It's scary to think if Tony does that, because Tony can't help himself. And Christian's there, and I don't even want to think about it. Moving on, we had a really awesome match. It was the AEW Women's Championship where Jamie Hayter defeated RHIO. This was so good. It was two baby faces and they worked it absolutely perfectly. We had Hayter hitting the Haterade, but RHIO kicked out, and then she got it in a second Haterade and won. It was really, really good. It was really hard hitting. I think RHIO's great. She's undersized and she works it to her advantage, and I love seeing her against a bigger, hard hitting opponent like Jamie Hayter. So such a good match. Jamie Hayter's a great women's champion. At the end, she shook RHIO's hand while RHIO was still laying on the mat, which I thought was pretty funny. I'm not sure I would have done that. It just made RHIO look so small and just kind of pitiful, but awesome match. Then we went backstage to Renee, and she was with the Outcasts. Ruby said the Outcasts are coming for the AEW Women's title. Then Renee was like, but there's 3 of you. And then Saraya said, don't stir the pot, Renee. And then she did this, Saraya always seems like she doesn't know what to say, and she always has to throw something else in on the end because she's not confident in her words. So she threw in buy our t-shirts or something. Storyline just isn't there right now. But at least we didn't have some terrible Groundhog Day style attack from the Outcasts with the baby faces not seeing it coming or knowing what to do. Then we got to celebrate MJF Day. This was so cool. They had a big band there. MJF came out in a tuxedo. People were cheering. He went over to the big band and he was doing, very Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, maybe a bit of Bobby Darin style, TV special performance. And then he performed Pennies from Heaven. It was so good. This was way better than the Dinner Debonair, which was the last time we heard MJF sing, or the time he was on the Rosie O'Donnell show. I just thought this was so good. It was really entertaining. It was really unexpected. It fit his character. Loved it so much. He then danced towards the ring. Then he introduced the Oyster Bay Supervisor, which is a mayor. His name was Joseph Saldino. The crowd hated him because he's a politician. I think they were chanting like lower our taxes or something at him. MJF was very funny, like improvising. He took the mic and said to the crowd, like, don't ruin this for me, because he was getting the key to the city, to the town, sorry, of Oyster Bay. They presented him with this gigantic key. He had got the key like ceremony earlier in the week, and there's some footage of him out there from that. He's very, on MJF, he's like on his best behavior. That was very interesting to see. He then did a speech about how he deserves this, unlike the other three pillars who are losers. And then he told a story about himself growing up. He said he was diagnosed with ADD. And I thought this was really great because the crowd broke out into an ADD chant. And I do love to, hear people like MJF talk about these things, because, if there are kids watching that are also struggling with ADD and are struggling in school because of it, it's so good for them to see someone, like MJF talk about these things. He then gave a speech about his teacher, Mrs. Benedict, who basically like berated him at school for him not being able to concentrate, made him feel bad and everything. And then one day she asked him what he was thinking about when he like drifted off during her class, and he said he was thinking about wrestling. And she said that there was basically no chance of him becoming a wrestler. And then he called her a stupid bitch for that. And he said it was a motivational speech, but just to kids from Long Island. So anyone else watching, don't take any motivation from this. This is only for the Long Islanders. I really loved this. I had a terrible time in school myself with teachers and stuff, and I would love to be able to cut a promo on some of those people on TV, especially ones who are very aware of things that might be going on with you, but still choose to be horrible to you as well. I must say that there are a lot of wonderful teachers out there. It's just me and MJF, had bad ones. But anyway, I thought this was so funny. It was really cool. And then he walked back up the ramp. We thought we were going to get an encore, but it was ruined by Jungle Boy, who was hiding a dress as a band member, and he attacked him. They had a little brawl. I thought it was quite good how they did this, because they kind of got them separated to one on each side, and then Sammy Guevara's match hit for him to come out for his match. But during the scuffle between MJF and Jungle Boy, the title belt had been dropped, so Sammy Guevara got to do the thing of like holding up the belt. So I thought that was a great way to keep like the four pillars thing going as well, so like they bled this segment into the next one, which I thought was pretty cool. As a whole, the MJF Day thing, I don't think they, despite the fact that he did a whole big band thing and got a key to a city, I don't think they made as big a deal of it as I thought they would. But I will say this was a completely stacked show, so it's kind of no surprise that it got like a little bit lost. It wasn't one of the top like 3 or 4 most important things that happened on the show, but I really enjoyed it. I can't wait till MJF's Swing album. I think it's going to be really good. MJF, or Max as I like to call him, he is so special, and I truly believe this man has the ability to both transcend and uplift wrestling with his talent. The biggest movie star in the world pretty much is a former wrestler. It's The Rock, it's Dwayne Johnson. John Cena's doing really well in acting. Dave Bautista, awesome. They're all doing so well, and I think that they've kind of helped change the perception of wrestlers, because before that, if you ask people to name a wrestler, it would be Hulk Hogan, and he did some acting as well, and I'm not gonna even bother to give Hulk Hogan the satisfaction of me shitting on him, but Hulk Hogan never made anyone look better on the wrestling industry, or think of us wrestling fans better, or think of wrestling as a whole better, or appreciate wrestling as an art form. Hogan never did that. But MJF is such a talent, and he's so multi-talented that I really think he has the ability to cross over into the mainstream, and do it while uplifting wrestling, because we'll see what he's like in this Von Erichs movie. I really hope he has acting chops. He seems like he would. And it would be awesome to see him make a name for himself in Hollywood. And then, he can also sing. So he could release an album. He could release a swing album. This wrestler, doing like a serious album. He's going to be amazing the more talk shows he goes on, like the more mainstream ones. And I think there's just no ends to what Max can do, not just for himself, but for the wrestling business as a whole. Like, who knows if he's signed a contract yet? I think that Tony, if Max hasn't actually signed, I know in storyline there's the bidding war of 2024. I believe if Max has already signed a contract extension, they would want no one to know about that to keep that storyline going. I sincerely hope that Tony has this guy locked down before he put the belt on him. But we did find out that Tony put the belt on Jon Moxley when he wasn't under contract. But I hope he probably has Max locked down, and that Max doesn't end up just going to WWE when his contract runs out and his title run ends, because he is the most important asset that AEW has. He's the most important because he's the future, and he is so talented beyond what he can do in the ring. Anyway, that rant over. So Sammy Guevara, as I said, he came out for his match against Commander. This was okay. Honestly, if I know I'm pretty down on Sammy. If I was Sammy, I wouldn't have asked for this match. I think that Sammy is very good as a flippy indie guy, but Commander outclasses him when it comes to stuff like this. Like, Commander is a great luchador, and I think that Sammy was a bit like outclassed with what he can do compared to Commander. This was in no way, though, Commander's best performance in the past couple weeks. His match at Ring of Honor with Vikingo was amazing, and he had some other good matches recently as well. So we had Guevara winning, though. He hit the GTH. We saw Darby Allin watching on, but it's cool. Like, Guevara is racking up the wins, so this 4 Pillars story continues. He's not the guy I would want to see MJF face. Then I think they made like a bad decision, because they got Sammy Guevara to cut a promo, and Sammy is an unlikable guy, but put him in Long Island where people love MJF, and he becomes even more unlikable if you didn't think that was possible. He started by saying, like, what the heck was that American Idol about MJF's performance? Such a dated reference. And then, he said that when he was beaten by MJF, it wasn't by MJF, it was because Sean Spears and a chair. And everyone was like, who's Sean Spears? But he basically said that MJF sold his soul to be a pillar, but Guevara would never do that. He's like AEW for life. He like helped build this company. He did everything himself. I just like, Sammy is not the one to be saying this. Like, dude, you came in to this company immediately powered by Chris Jericho in his heel faction, the Inner Circle. Then you tried it for your own for a bit. People did not like you, so you went back to Chris Jericho. And this all like, I did everything by myself type thing just doesn't work when we've only seen you on screen beside Chris Jericho. Like, on screen, it seems like you're very much helped by that association. So I just don't think he's the one to be saying these things. And I feel like, they're trying to give us ways to get behind Sammy over MJF and sympathize, but it just didn't work, and it was in Long Island. And Sammy's delivery is not good. He's not a good promo yet. Like, maybe he'll improve, but of all the situations, I never would have sent him out to do this promo in this situation. Not in Long Island, man. Like, seriously. Then we had Hook defeating Ethan Page. So this happened when Matt Hardy hit Ethan Page with the FTW Championship, and then Hook put in the red rum to get the submission win. Please do not associate Hook with Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy is the true vampire of AEW. Some people think it's Jericho. It's Matt Hardy. Okay, those Private Party boys, they were young and they were cool before they got near Matt Hardy. And that has been going on forever. I don't know what to make of this. Usually I would say I don't care when it comes to anything involved with Matt Hardy, but now they've put Hook into it, so I do care. I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared that this isn't just a one-off and there's a Matt Hardy Hook like alliance or something. That would be terrible for Hook. Hook needs to get friends as cool as him. He cannot be hanging out with Matt Hardy, who is like in his 50s. It just doesn't work for the image. It never worked for Private Party's image. All of it, just the Matt Hardy versus is not my favorite aspect of AEW. Then it was time for Tony Khan's huge announcement. He was backstage with Nigel McGuinness, who we found out before the show is all elite. I really love Nigel McGuinness and his commentary style. He was great on Supercard of Honor. This is a very good signing by Tony. As I said on Twitter, in a shady way, I wish that this was the first British former NXT commentator that Tony had ever signed, because the other one really fucked him over. But love Nigel. Tony was wearing this very odd jacket that had like this hood that almost looked like he was going to put his hood up and he would be like in the Traders, but you know, whatever. So this was the third piece of news that shook me, because Tony announced, well, Tony, Nigel McGuinness, and then Adam Cole at the end, announced that AEW will make their debut in London Sunday, August 27th for All In at Wembley Stadium. Like, mind blowing. They are going to Wembley Stadium that holds 90,000 people. Now, if you want like my full thoughts on this, it's in my live stream video that I did, but just brief thoughts here. This is absolutely amazing. You know, I have asked Tony so many times at press conferences and stuff about the UK shows. I know how important it is to people in the UK for these shows to be happening. I'm lucky enough to have been able to go to America and travel to see AEW. Other people aren't, and that's why I always ask, when are the UK shows happening? Because, you know, I'm there representing the UK audience. I'm the only UK journalist at these shows, so I'm representing this side of the pond, and I wanted us to get something special, and I could have never imagined it would be Wembley Stadium, which is so great, so big, so grand. You know, WWE beat them over here after the pandemic. They did Clash at the Castle in Cardiff, and they're doing Money in the Bank in the O2, but Wembley is a way bigger, more important venue than any of those, so they might have been late in coming over, but this is incredible. It's going to be so amazing. I was like literally in tears just because it finally happened. Like, they finally announced it, and it's going to be so great. And I get why Tony wanted to announce it on television. You know, it's slightly funny that he makes his announcement at 2:30 a.m. in the UK when a lot of people were in bed, whereas when he announced Forbidden Door in Canada, he did it in a press release before Dynamite. You know, when if he had announced that on Dynamite, all the Canadians would have been awake. But I think that he did it on TV just because it's so huge. So yeah, I can't wait for this, and it's gonna be a really exciting couple of months in the run up to this. Yeah, I'm made up. I'm totally made up. And as John Pollock said on Twitter, I finally got my answer. Then we had the Blackpool Combat Club taking on some jobbers. The opponents weren't even announced. The Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler, Danielson was there. They just brutalized these poor men. This was nothing. This was just to show how brutal these guys are. We already know after what they did to Dalton Castle and the boys last week. But anyway, things got worse. Danielson then cut a promo saying he was at home with his family, who he loves, but he loves the Blackpool Combat Club, who are professional wrestlers, and that the guys they just beat up don't look like professionals, they look like amateurs. hired by the EVPs. Then Hangman Page came to the ring, but he was immediately beaten down by Moxley, Castelloni, and Yuta, while Danielson berated him, calling him an amateur. And then Danielson pulls a screwdriver from his jacket and said that the house of AEW needs to be fixed up from all these amateurs. And then he drove the screwdriver like into Page's eye. It was awful. Awful. But I don't know what to say about this other than like just it was terrible. Like they're really getting over how vicious the Blackpool Combat Club are. I was very sympathetic towards Hangman Page. I would say it's like a broader point to me. The only thing this show was missing was Kenny Omega, because I've been so drawn into his story the past couple of weeks. It felt weird to have a show without him. Obviously, we had Hangman out there who's part of that story, but this show was really missing Kenny and more continuation on that stuff. But yeah, this was brutal. Those guys are vicious. This has to be leading to like to Anarchy in the Arena, where, because that was such a vicious, violent match last year with the Blackpool Combat Club and the Jericho Appreciation Society. I think it's going to be even wilder when you put Kenny, the Bucks, and Hangman in there. And then in our main event, we crowned new AEW Tag Team Champions because FTR defeated the Guns. First things first, I think that they did FTR and the Guns a disservice by putting the match on this show. We had so much going on in the show. You had your big Jay White debut, you had the London announcement, and they just weren't hyping up this match enough during the show. And today, not no one's talking about it, but it's not the first thing anyone's talking about it. And it should be a big deal. We had a title change, and we find out that FTR, who have been teasing leaving the company for ages, are actually sticking around. They have confirmed that they've signed contracts. They're sticking around. So where was the build throughout the show for this? It just wasn't there enough. You should be making the viewers want to stick around. You should be making us worried that we're never going to see FTR again and that the Guns are going to hold these titles forever. But there was none of that. So I thought that was really bad. There was just too much going on. The Guns also got a special entrance coming out to 50 Cent. That was pretty cool. There was some lip syncing going on, some strategic lip syncing. The ending came when Wheeler flew off the top with a sunset flip, and while Dax Harwood simultaneously got a roll up, and both of the Guns were pinned. FTR win the title. Streamers fall. Mark Briscoe comes out. It was a lovely scene. I thought the match was okay. It wasn't anywhere near FTR's best work. I have enjoyed the Guns as champions. I think they've really grown in the short time that they held the belts. But nice to see FTR being AEW champions, which I think they deserved to be for so long, before they took their hiatus. It is wild they never put the belts on them when they were holding all the belts except that belt. And some of the booking of FTR in AEW has been pretty wild, but I hope they've sorted things out. I hope they've sorted things out with Tony, and are in like a happier place. And congratulations to them. But also, I hope the Guns now don't get forgotten. I think they did a really good job with the position that they were put in. And it was lovely to see Mark Briscoe out there at the end with FTR.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
So that was AEW Dynamite. Now, who was I the biggest fan of this week? You know what? I'm going to have to give it to Tony Khan for finally answering my question of when are AEW coming to London. And yes, he answered it on national TV rather than privately. But what an incredible thing he's done booking Wembley Stadium for AEW. It's amazing. So Tony Khan, this week I'm the biggest fan of you. So that's all from me. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm sorry if I've sounded weird. I'm actually ill again. Shouldn't have gone out at the weekend, but yeah, please don't forget to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up, comment, share it. All these things really help me in the algorithm. The algorithm's not very nice to me, but those things can really help me. Check out my other links below if you want to support me even more. Follow me on Twitter at Stephanie M. She is And I will see you all again next time. Bye.